everybody hates the trigger. Well, everybody I know. Some people like it. My son likes it. But I can't stand it, that auto reset. So I bought one. I think it's Keep Tinkering. It's supposed to do away with the auto reset. I'm gonna try it, and then after I put it in, I'm gonna make a video and show it. It's loaded. I'm gonna get a few shots. I'm gonna get as close as I can so you can try to see the trigger before, and then we'll go from there. See how far back that is? Let's try when you get the stop. I hate this trigger. Watch the reset. The reset's not too finally hit the target. She is clear. Once you get started and you can control it, it's not that bad, but I don't like it. I don't want to use it. It's a $200 gun most places. I mean, you get what you pay for, but now there's a trigger, and I changed the trigger and everything, so the gun is clear. I hate that. It reminds me of a damn cap gun. And this isn't my carry gun, so I was just gonna deal with it. I just take it out, target practice. So, but then I seen you could get one for around $20 from this place. Keep Tinkering. And then I thought it was gonna be like a Glock and come with all kinds of stuff. It comes with just the trigger. I don't want the safety. I want it as flat as it can be. I want the reduced travel, and I don't want the double action. I hate that. So I'm gonna put this in. Back pin is a little shorter, just because the gun is narrower back there. The back one's a little fatter and a little shorter. This is under spring tension. There's a spring and a detent there. You have to hold that down while you take the lock out the left side. It has to come out the left side. hold that spring when you do it. I'm holding that spring while this comes out. It's hard to do on camera. Let it up easy. That's the plastic piece will go flying. And then you got your spring there. And that's it. Now you can start taking the rest off. You want to hold the safety when you take the locking block out. Here's what I was talking about with the safety. There's a little ball bearing right in there. I don't know if I can get it. There it is, right there. If you lose that, you better have a magnet. And then you still might not find it. So hold that safety when you pull that out. It's tight in there. You're going to have to pry and work with it. And that will fall off. That's normal. That just sits on the other side. There we go. It's dirty. I've been shooting. This just sits in there. That's no big deal. We'll get that back on. The trigger bar, you gotta turn sideways and pull it out. I was off camera when I did it. This is what you'll get. Hold that safety. You don't want that ball bearing coming out. Turn the trigger bar, pull it out. And this is what we're going to be working with. So I'm going to set this to the side so we don't lose that ball bearing. Alright, I got a little bit better angle. We got to push this pin out to get your trigger and bar out. Most times they will just push out. And then we can get our trigger out of there. And there. Now there's your locking block. We're done with it for now. Got the trigger and the bar. And you got a spring in there for that trigger safety that is, it's pretty tough for what it is. Alright. Alright, we're going to take the top pin out first. These pins are like jagged or knurled to hold them in. Sometimes they'll be tough. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. The end right there. Anyway, that's what holds it in. The second one is the one that holds the spring. So when we push this out, we're going to leave this in there so we can hold the tension on that spring. If you don't hold the tension, that spring will fly. That is a tough spring. I've lost them and had to order plenty on guns that aren't mine. That always sucks. And see, I went kind of sideways there. So I'm going to have to pull it out and hold it. I didn't have my punch straight. But there's your spring. Your trigger. the safety, let's pull it out. And your trigger bar. The safety is just a plastic piece. It's junk anyway. They made one that had a spring in it. Right there, put a spring in there. Like a thin piece of metal or something, it would be better, but I'm not big on these anyway, so it doesn't matter either way to me. I'm not carrying this gun either. There it is. Alright, there's my trigger pin. And that's the factory trigger. It's out. And you can see I don't have as many holes in the aftermarket. That's because I'm not using a safety. It's a lot more flat. Alright, it's going to be hard to show this on camera, so I'm going to try to show you before. This hook has the hook on there. And you can see the spring lays down over the hole like that. And then that lead that sticks off, there's a spot in the trigger for it to go. Like that. And it's tough, you gotta push it. This is the worst part of all of it. Alright, you would not believe how hard that was to get that spring to line up. What I ended up doing was I used the punch. I ran it through the trigger bar and the spring, and the hook was hooked around on the trigger. So I took a pick and picked it up and brought it around and hooked it there. But it was hooked on it was just a pain. I couldn't do it on camera, not till I get a better tripod. It was a pain in the ass. Once you get it finagled in there, you'll see the trigger pin hole. You need to line it up with the hole on the trigger. There we go. I got it in now. Let's get it flush. There we go. Now you can see, might have to move it around some. It holds the slide lock too. All of that's one pin. Right after you get that in, take your lifter. There's a little notch it fits on. I'm holding that safety for that ball. There you go. Put it up. This has got to come in at a... I knocked it off. It just sits there, so it's aggravating. This has got to come in at an angle. Just like that. And the lifter will go down, and that's it. Now we're going to set it all in there. And this can be more tricky than anything, getting it all to line up and everything in place. through a camera. Come on now. Alright. I held that safety all the way. That front block is always tricky, always. There we go. I had to slide it forward and down. That pinhole's clear. That one is. That one is. And then we gotta get this. You remember your spring. Your takedown lever. That detent goes in it. That detent's plastic. You drop it, chances are. Alright, this is bigger on one side, so it had to come out from the left, so we got to go in from the right. And this can be tricky because you got to hold that down. And if you slip off, she's gonna fly. I should be using the smaller Allen wrench, but it's not too bad. Get it back in. It's worse getting it out. And there you go. It's popped in. It's good and even. Now you got your frame pins. I got a trigger pin left because I don't have the safety on there anymore. So that'll go put up with the safety and the factory trigger. I don't need any of that. And the pins, remember the short fat one goes in the back. The long fat one up front. I think they're like 1/8 maybe. Get it started. And it lined up. I'm not just hitting, I seen it line up, so if you go to tap it and there's any kind of resistance, stop. Something's not lined up. Not too far. I want it flush on both sides. And that'll do it. I'm still lined up in the back. Long skinny one's the first one. This one's not knurled. I've seen some, I think it's the older ones that is knurled. This one has none on it. The other one, I believe you had to go in from a certain way too. I've never done this before. That's why I kept stopping. Not on a Taurus. I didn't want a bunch of hang time, and it's hard looking through the camera, and a little bit more. And this is a Glock tool. I like to get them even on both sides. Alright, we're still lined up for the short back fat one. And I'm not worried about scratching the gun. All my guns are scratched. I shoot mine. But I mean, this is a poly frame. It's going to be hard to mess a poly frame. I don't like how fat it is. I wish it was skinnier. And right there. But that's a big old fat trigger. Let's see if it works. No more double action. The reset is really, really, really light. It's audible, but it is a light feel. It's hard to feel the reset. I wish I could get all that take up going. There's your wall. Brake. It don't feel too bad. Alright, I showed the main parts about how to put the trigger in. It's not too bad. It's not a hard one. I've shot it a couple times since. This trigger changes my opinion of this gun big time. I wasn't accurate with the gun. I am now. I like this trigger. And this is the cheapest trigger that I've done. It was, I think, $25. Keep tinkering. Most triggers are at least a couple $100. So, I mean, you can't beat this trigger. I'm going to show you some shots with it. This gun has moved way up on my list since then. Try to get close. Leave it. There's the travel. The reset. It's not that bad. I'm a lot more accurate with it. It's a good trigger. It's worth the $25. Most triggers are, I think I paid almost $200 for the trigger in my Glock. It's a flat face. The reset's not too audible. It could be better, but for $25, I mean, there's no more double action. It's not a cap gun anymore. I like this gun a lot now. It's a big improvement. If you got the G2, the PT-111, any of those, you need to get this trigger.